What causes colds and influenzas? Both colds and various influenzas are caused by a wide variety of viruses, not bacteria. While the two ailments typically affect your respiratory tract, there are some differences between them. Common symptoms of a regular cold include runny nose, congestion, cough, and sore throat. The symptoms of the flu tend to be far more severe, as the influenza viruses are capable of causing severe lung infection, pneumonia, and even respiratory failure. They also tend to affect your joints, hence that all-over itchy feeling. The most common way these viruses are spread is via hand-to-hand contact. For instance, someone with a cold blows their nose, then shakes your hand or touches surfaces that you also touch. However, the key to remember is that just being exposed to a cold virus does not mean that you're destined to catch a cold. If your immune system is operating at its peak, it should actually be quite easy for you to fend off the virus without ever getting sick. Ditto for flu viruses. If your immune system is impaired, on the other hand, they can easily take hold in your body. So, it's important to understand that the reason you catch a cold or flu is that your immune system is impaired. It's not an inevitable event based on exposure alone. Lifestyle factors that can depress your immune system, alone or in combination, include eating too much sugar, particularly fructose, and too many grains. The average person is consuming about 75 grams of fructose per day, and when fructose is consumed at that level it can devastate your immune system. One of the ways it does this is by unbalancing your gut flora. Sugar is fertilizer for pathogenic bacteria, yeast, and fungi that can set your immune system up for an assault by a respiratory virus. Most people don't realize that 80% of your immune system actually lies in your gastrointestinal tract. That's why controlling your sugar intake is crucial for optimizing your immune system. It would be wise to limit your total fructose consumption to below 25 grams a day if you're in good health, or below 15 grams a day if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, or are insulin resistant. Vitamin D deficiency, as a result of insufficient sun exposure, not getting enough rest, insufficient exercise, using ineffective strategies to address emotional stresses. Vitamin D deficiency, an underlying cause of both colds and influenzas. It's estimated that the average U.S. adult typically has 2 to 4 colds each year, while children may have up to a dozen. Each year, between 5 and 20% of the U.S. population also come down with flu-like illness, according to Medline. One reason for the widespread prevalence of colds and the flu may be that vitamin D deficiency is incredibly common in the United States, especially during the winter months when cold and flu viruses are at their peak. Research has confirmed that catching colds and flu may actually be a symptom of an underlying vitamin D deficiency. Less than optimal vitamin D levels will significantly impair your immune response and make you far more susceptible to contracting colds, influenza, and other respiratory infections. In the largest and most nationally representative study of its kind to date, involving about 19,000 Americans, people with the lowest vitamin D levels reported having significantly more recent colds or cases of the flu, and the risk was even greater for those with chronic respiratory disorders like asthma. At least 5 additional studies also show an inverse association between lower respiratory tract infections and vitamin D levels. But the research is quite clear: the higher your vitamin D level, the lower your risk of contracting colds, flu, and other respiratory tract infections. I strongly believe you could avoid colds and influenza entirely by maintaining your vitamin D level in the optimal range. Important. Why getting your vitamin D from sun exposure is so important. In a recent interview, Dr. Stephanie Seneff brought the importance of sun exposure to a whole new level. I've consistently recommended getting your vitamin D from regular sun exposure whenever possible, and Dr. Seneff's review of how vitamin D specifically from sun exposure is intricately tied to healthy cholesterol and sulfur levels makes this recommendation all the more important. However, as a quick summary, when you expose your skin to sunshine, your skin synthesizes vitamin D3 sulfate. This form of vitamin D is water-soluble, unlike oral vitamin D3 supplements, which is unsulfated. The water-soluble form can travel freely in your bloodstream, whereas the unsulfated form needs LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, as a vehicle of transport. Her suspicion is that the oral non-sulfated form of vitamin D likely will not provide the same benefits as the vitamin D created in your skin from sun exposure, because it cannot be converted to vitamin D sulfate. I believe this is a very compelling reason to make a concerted effort to seek to get your vitamin D requirements from safe exposure to sunshine, or by using a safe tanning bed, one with electronic ballasts rather than magnetic ballasts, to avoid unnecessary exposure to EM fields. I have maintained my level between 65 and 110 ng/ml with regular sun exposure. I recognize that these options may not be feasible for most people, and certainly an oral vitamin D3 supplement will be much than nothing at all. Vitamin D may help you recover quicker and prevent a cold or flu in the first place. Vitamin D is an amazingly effective antimicrobial agent, producing 200 to 300 different antimicrobial peptides in your body that kill bacteria, viruses, and fungi. So optimizing your levels will not only help send a cold or flu virus packing, it will prevent them from invading your body in the first place. Contrary to flu vaccines, his recommendation has been gaining scientific validation. For example, in one study, published last year, 3 researchers investigated the effect of vitamin D on the incidence of seasonal influenza A in school children. For over a year, they conducted a study comparing the effects of vitamin D3 with placebos. They found that influenza A occurred in just 10.8% of the children in the vitamin D group, compared with 18.6% children in the placebo group.